And we are live. Good morning to you, Fernando. And you're in a hotel room, right?
Yes, indeed. I'm back in my home city of Dongguan and
Oh,
staying in a hotel because my new apartment is waiting to be delivered in a couple of days. The deed will be transferred in a couple of days. So I'll be moving into my new apartment. I will continue to travel, but now I have an apartment in Dongguan.
well, let's come back to the apartment issue later because you and I are both going through the same thing at the moment, buying new apartments. And I'd love to get, you say you're going to be ready in a couple of days. Let's come back to that in a little while because I'd like to start today's meeting because you have knowledge that I don't have, and probably most of the people who follow me wouldn't have in-depth knowledge on what's going on in Argentina. And I thought
Mm,
it might be great if we can just cover that and say, wow, what the hell is happening in Argentina? And how, if will it affect China? Because tomorrow Argentina was supposed to join
yeah,
uh, the BRICS.
yeah.
Now it's not. So fill me in on this because I know virtually nothing about it except what I've seen in the media.
Well, without claiming to know too much, anybody in Latin America, I'm from Colombia, for those of you who don't know me, knows and has followed the decades and decades of economic struggles in Argentina. They've had what they call depression after depression. And one of the main issues has always been hyperinflation. I do have family living in Argentina. And some of the stories that they share is that overnight things just get double the price or triple the price, and then it causes enormous strain on the economy and the people, because what you were able to buy the day before, you need three times the money to pay it today, or two
Mhm.
times the money to pay it today, and salaries are not increasing. And this has been happening for decades. We're talking since the 1980s. 1991 was one of the highest spikes in their inflation. I think it was 84% throughout the year. And it goes up and down, goes up and down. People don't know exactly what things are going to cost. It's an impossibility to plan ahead, plan your future, plan your savings, or your financial future when you don't know what's going to take place. So a lot of people revert to, okay, let's try to stay on the dollar, and they've been trying to do that for a long time. Those who had the ability to save, the saving dollar or gold or outside of the country, because nobody really trusts what's going to happen with the peso the next day. Um, then 2002 came around, Great Depression. Um, there was another one in 2019, which is called as the peso crisis. So this is something that Argentinians have been experiencing since forever.
Mhm.
And what happened now with this new president, Javier Milei, is he just once again he took possession of his job as a president about 15 days ago, and he just revaluated the peso again, and everybody once again lost 50% of the purchasing power. And it's one of the many things that he has done to try and fix the problem. But the problem has always been a combination of, and as I said, everybody in Latin America understands this: protectionism, and then open markets that create confusion. So one party goes for protectionist measures, and then the other party goes for, no, forget about protection, let's open markets, and let's uh, open free trade and things like that. That's another thing that Millet did. He removed all kinds of taxation and protections to imports. So now it's 100% free trade. The problem is that, well, a lot of competition is going to come to Argentina, and you don't really have the guardrails to know if they're dumping these products or not. So they might be coming through other countries with subsidies that are going to compete with Argentinian economy, which again is a very, very weak economy. So it's going to destroy the Argentinian production base. Um, it's all very crazy, none of it makes sense. And I think that I would like to point out some of the things that Milei has done, and just go through the details of what he has done and how none of this makes sense. And when we discuss all of this, it's very important to always bear in mind that it's been 15 days. So let me show you one of the things that he has done, right?
Right.
Uh, this is well known. He eliminated 12 ministries. So out of the 21 cabinet posts that there were, there's now only 9. There's no education ministry. There's no sports ministry. There's no health. I mean, if you're going to reform education, for example, who do you go to?
The
So
minister.
well, no, you go to Milei. That's the only person you go to.
Right.
So that focusing of power into very few is very concerning. That's the definition of authoritarian. What else? He fired, like on his second or third day, he fired 5,000 government employees. 5,000 government employees. Now, the question is, was there any kind of process where they talked about, okay, is this person worthy of his position? Is this person delivering or not delivering? Is he performing or not? I mean, you cannot do that on 5,000 employees in a matter of days. So what he did is, I call him the wrecking ball. He just goes, that's it.
Right.
So those ministries go a whole bunch of employees, some of whom were good, some of whom were probably bureaucracy. But what I'm trying to say is that there was no process of evaluation to determine what to do with these people, who stays, who goes. None. It's just clean slate, in a way that is very difficult to determine what the repercussions will be towards the very, very near future, let alone the long future. He ended, and we talked about this last night, Jerry, 380,000 regulations. Think about environmental regulations. Think about food and safety. Think about fire safety. Think about just anything that you may need to run a business or to do business. 380,000 regulations in 15 days. That's
just gone with the stroke of a pen.
Exactly, because forget about going to Congress. He hasn't gone to. There's no legislation written to replace it. Nothing is replacing anything. It's just that's it. This doesn't exist anymore. Sit back and think. 380,000 regulations. Who had the time to go and see? Oh, this is worth it. This is not worth it. Nobody has the time to do that. This was done just. That's it. We don't want this and this and this. And who's making those decisions? Only Milei.
One man.
Him.
So,
one man.
So effectively, this is a total dictatorship.
Which is something that they have always been drawn to in Argentina. Argentina is very different in Latin America in the sense that even though they have democracy, right, they've had leaders like, think for example about Perón. Most people know Argentina by Evita Perón, right? Don't cry for me, Argentina. Perón was a guy who did a lot for the workers. It was a lot of socialist ideas. He did a lot for the laborers. He did a lot for the people of Argentina. But as time went by, corruption came to be, and in the end, it became another mess. But they go from one extreme to the other constantly. So this idea of we need somebody to solve this problem, this existing problem, is how do we fix it? Oh, maybe this. Oh no, the other party. Let's give this party a chance. No, let the other party. This two-party system have always this problem. Like they're the problem. No, they're the problem. No, they're the cause. No, they're the cause. And in the end, they all get exploited. Nothing gets sorted. And now Milei comes like a wrecking ball, as I said. And okay, let's get rid of everything and start afresh. When I shot my video about him, I said like, that's what you would do if your house is crooked. Okay, just
knock it down and build a new one.
down and build a new one. The problem is, what are the chances that he will be able to do that and remain sovereign? That he will be able to do that and remain an independent country? Because what else has he done? He privatized state companies, and
Right.
he has allowed foreign companies like BlackRock and Vanguard and all these huge global powers to come and start buying land, buying companies, buying enterprises. So of course there's money coming in, but where is your sovereignty?
Yeah. Where's your
How?
money going as well?
That's the tweet that I also sent out the other day. I said, like,
Yeah.
watch out for 10% for the big guy. Watch out for Millet opening accounts in the Cayman Islands and and Switzerland, because he's just selling the country out. And it's not I'm not being just overly concerned. It's just, this is what's taking place. Take a look at some of the things that he has done. He opened up Argentinian oil industry. So basically now all foreign companies can come and extract oil and process the oil and send it and exploit the country privately as foreign companies. The country is out of it. It's just you watch the thing come and go and get a little bit a kickback or a little bit of money for the crude oil, not for the gasoline that then you have to buy afterwards. So this kind of loss of sovereignty is one of the main concerns when we think about Milei towards 2024. But I don't know. I've thrown a lot of things into the conversation. What are
Yeah.
you thoughts on the things that I've said? And I have more which are concerning. But
Okay. I,
let's.
I think since we're both China commentators, I would. What's the implications for China? Because he's very anti-China, but then at the same time, he needs China very badly, doesn't he?
He did something that is very unusual. He basically said this guy has no moral compass at all. One of the first things that he said in an interview before the election, as Western politicians do, he said, "I don't deal with communists."
Hmm.
2 days into his presidency, he sent a letter to Xi Jinping.
Xi
Hey,
Jinping.
you can renew the swap, which is basically some of the money that China gives them in terms of US dollars, so that they
Yeah.
continue to import things. And that's the contradiction, right? He's
And that's a
asking
$6.5 billion swap, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of
So
money.
he's asking China to give him money so that he can pay for the running of the country and the imports that he's opening up. Let's import. Let's people come here and sell their things to us. How are you going to pay for those if you don't have US dollars? And none of this makes sense. None of this makes
He,
sense.
he wanted to
Yeah.
link. In fact, he wanted to scrap the peso altogether and go to the dollar as the form of currency, didn't he? And then
Yeah,
America
but
said
then you
no.
gotta have reserves. He
He's got
doesn't
none.
have the reserves. He doesn't have the
Right.
US reserves to do that. And the BRI, I'm sorry, BRICS, when BRICS accepted Argentina in one of the last James, yes, 100%, 100%. It's okay. I was going to talk about BRICS, and then I say something about what James is
Okay.
saying here. When BRICS agreed, they were thinking, okay, they need reform. We can help them to reform, and we can help them detach from the International Monetary Fund and the whole foreign debt that they have. Just last year, the International Monetary Fund lent Argentina billions of dollars. For what? To help them pay back the debt. If that's not the definition of a debt trap, I don't understand what is. Here's some money so you can pay some of the interest on all the debt that you have. That's what they did last year, so that they could continue having a sense of stability during the election. They didn't want to have protests. They didn't want to have a revolution. They didn't want to have anything happening before the election. So the International Monetary Fund gave them some money so that they could have stable elections and pay some of the interest that they owe. They defaulted on their foreign debt several times in their life. Argentina. This is
Yeah.
like, sorry, we're
So they're
bankrupt.
just kicking this can down the road by lending them more money, and of course that allows because it's the IMF. The IMF has put preconditions on their debt as well, of course.
Exactly. So
So
what the BRICS did was Qatar, which is a member of BRI and BRICS as well, they lent them some money last year and said, like, look, we are actually trying to help you detach yourself from this debt trap, this physical textbook definition of a debt trap. And we are an option for you. And he just said, no, I don't want to. I don't want to be part of that. I'm going to
So
bank
he's pulled
on
out of
America.
BRICS altogether, hasn't he?
Yes. He
Yes,
sent a letter to
that's official. Yeah.
he sent a letter to Lula just yesterday saying, like, look, thank you very much, but no, we're not going to join BRICS. And that's the second thing that I wanted to talk about. America has a lot of interest, not only financial, right, in exploiting Argentina, but also in throwing a wrench into the spokes of Latin America. Latin America is turning left quite a lot in Brazil, in Colombia, many countries in Central America as well. They're leaning left. They're starting to become more socialist little by little, and that's something that bothers them. So to have somebody like Milei in Argentina is going to be a tool to disrupt the whole Latin American economy and the LATAM commerce. That's getting stronger and stronger each day as they lean towards China. So yeah, to me, it's just a wrench thrown into the spokes to yeah get Latin
There,
America slow
there was a
down.
school of thought that Argentina was only joining BRICS because Lula wanted a kind of backup, in the same way that Canada is part of the G7 because the United States wanted a kind of counterbalance to the European weight. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, because when you talk about certain groups, political groups in Latin America, right? Argentina has an important place, right? So somebody to oppose proposals and to oppose projects that may help get rid of America's influence to once and for all end this Monroe Doctrine that has been the cancer of Latin America for decades. Well, that's Argentina for them. He's gonna play. He's gonna play like a what do you call them? The mole, right?
Yeah. Argentina is the inside runner. Yeah.
Exactly.
James
So
James is asking, would this happen? The Argentina has dropped out of BRICS. Let's just put this question up because it's a little confusing to. Would this going down of Argentina something US would happen such that Argentina has to drop out of BRICS? It's not a question of Argentina has to drop out of BRICS. Argentina has dropped out of BRICS. I think
yeah,
the comparison there is not the same, but Italy pulled out of the BRI because Biden had a meeting with the then new president of Italy, prime minister of Italy, and said, basically, if you're in BRI, you can't be in G7, and so they had to make a choice. They made a choice, and they chose G7. They stayed in the G7. I don't think Argentina was in that position. Argentina is just in a difficult position.
yeah, but still, they're part of Latin America. They're part of this large group of countries that are pushing forward, and they can wreak havoc. I mean, they can obstruct. They can put obstacles to proposals and development. So I think that that's one of the reasons why America has every reason to back up whoever is going to be against a Latin American unity. He says, I don't want to deal with Venezuela, for example.
Right.
I mean, there's Colombia. When we elected our first leftist president, Petro, within days, he reinstated the Colombian consulate and the Colombian
The diplomatic
embassy.
relations.
He opened diplomatic relations. He opened the border. He opened flights. So again, these two countries are coming together.
Yeah.
Here comes Lay and says, like, no, I'm not dealing with Venezuela. If you're dealing with Venezuela, you don't deal with me. So yeah, you can see
this one. The only way for Argentina to survive. Now, this may be what your analogy about the crooked house. This may be it. If you have an alcoholic, for example, they hit rock bottom and then they realize, I've got to get out of this. Drug users, they hit rock bottom. They end up in all kinds of trouble and they suddenly say, help me, because they don't want help until such time as they hit rock bottom. Do you think that's what Argentina is actually going through now? That's what Milei is attempting to do. He realizes that this is the only way to come back.
It's in Spanish we call them the kicks of a drowning man. I think that's what he's doing. He's like, I'm gonna side with America. Both are countries that are struggling to stay afloat, but he had to make a bet, and I think it was the way to say it is, this is neoliberalism last attempt at survival. And it will fail. It will fail. This privatization of state companies, this whole freeing and opening up of markets, that is going to be the death of Argentina. But he had the other option would be, okay, I'm going to oppose the person who is helping me right now. Argentina was not ready to do that. Argentina was not ready to say, okay, now I'm going to go with BRICS. Now I'm going to go with BRI. Now I'm going to go with Brazil, Russia, and China. When the people helping you, the people who have you, right, are the IMF, World Bank, and the US.
Yeah.
He had to forget about this. There's no more middle ground. I'm going this way. But that's going to be the last attempt at neoliberalism working, and it's doomed to fail.
Did you see the video that S.L. Canthan put onto Twitter yesterday? With him walking down the street surrounded by, I don't know, well over 100 security guards. I mean, there's a huge number. I would guess probably 200 to 300 security officers actually required to keep him safe. Is he popular?
It is sad. It's just very, very sad, because we're talking about real people. We're talking about real families. We're talking about people not being able to put food on the table overnight with his measures and with his ideas. He created 5,000 unemployed people like that
in a day.
When he fired those government employees. Maybe he hired a couple of those to be bodyguards. That's what we're seeing, but compensate, But no, I think that he's in a very difficult position right now. The people who elected them, the people who elected him are some of those people like, okay, this is whatever, anything except what we have tried before. Kind of like what happened with Trump. Get out of the establishment. Let's give this a try. But Argentina's position is very different from America's. They don't get to print their own dollars as America does.
Yeah, well, their own pesos. Well, actually, they do print their own pesos, but they're useless. They're worse than toilet paper.
They stopped printing them for a while, and they start adding. This is a true story. They started adding zeros to the notes.
Did they? I mean, I'm laughing about that. This is between the wars Germany style of inflation, isn't it?
Yeah, where people would fire notes because it was cheaper than timber, than wood.
Yeah.
To that point. So people had to, I mean, my cousin, right? The stories that we hear is that people had to work late in supermarkets and stores because it would be announced that, oh, inflation is this much. Okay, so go change the prices before the morning because otherwise you would lose Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
ride coming down because you didn't change the prices to the new inflation prices. So
So just
it's a reality
let me
that's
ask an opinion. Oh, sorry,
Mhm.
go on.
It's just a very weird reality. We've never lived in a situation. You and I, we've never lived in a situation like this, where you carry bags of money. Okay, somebody froze. All right, guys. So I don't know if you're watching this. Let me know in the comment section if you're following me. Yeah, I think he froze. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys follow me? Commercial break. Yeah, let's go get a cup of coffee, guys. We wait for Jerry to come back. Okay. Look, I think that the inflation chaos of Argentina is a combination of factors. It's economic mismanagement. It's external influences like Western debt, external debt, and Western manipulation of Argentinian economy, and currency devaluation. Those are the three factors that have created this inflation and this particular situation for the people of Argentina that are trapped behind the government. And I've said it many times. It's time for people to just revolt and start anew, and that's what we're seeing. The protests in Argentina are insane, and that only leads to dangerous situations. Dangerous situations like a military coup could happen at any moment. I think once people are hungry, what else are you gonna do? Sorry. Hey,
Yeah.
welcome, Jerry.
Yeah. Welcome back to the show. Sorry about that. Just suddenly everything went blank, both sides. Oh my God. Sorry. Yes. So, before we move on to discussing China, do you have any final points about what we're talking about there?
Argentina.
Yeah.
Um, I think that people need to uh, keep an eye on people fleeing Argentina. When the elites start to leave, that's when things are going to get complicated. You got to remember, okay, the last thing that I'm going to say about Argentina, he did two things that are important. Number one, he legalized contracts using Bitcoin, using cryptocurrencies. That's a
Which means no
huge
one
thing.
has control over them. Yeah. No one knows
Not
who's
only
doing them.
not only that, but the manipulation of, let's say you have a contract for X amount of money, but then Bitcoin changes value because I don't know, this guy Fried, what was his name? Sam Fried, right?
Oh yeah,
Decided to,
Friedman. Yeah,
yeah,
Friedman
Friedman gave
Banks.
a million to this or 100, or he just decided to have a party in an island, and then they found out and the value goes down.
Mm.
Well, the
Mm.
value of your contract goes down. When you lose control of the value of your contract or your currency to something as volatile as Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies,
Yeah.
you're asking for trouble. Second thing that
What,
he did, he legalized
what happened
this.
there?
He legalized the right
You got-
of self. Yeah, when you
I
do
get no
something like
balloons.
when you do this, it throws. Is it this? Something like that. This is StreamYard.
There it is. Yeah.
No, he legalized the right for self-defense.
Mm.
So
Okay.
people carrying weapons,
We'll just shoot
the
each other and say he drew on me first. Wild West.
on that. Keep an eye on that. When the
Mm.
elites start fleeing, it's coming down. But yeah,
Yeah.
moving on to
Yeah, I thought we might move on to talking about China and what's happened in the last 12 months, because I mean it's been a big year, and I'm going to try and stay pretty much off the politics. But I was going to talk to you about your year in China. Where were you in January when we had a COVID spike, December and January? Do you remember that?
yeah, I was in the south of Guangdong when
Hmm.
that came up. However, towards the end of last year, they removed all the restrictions. So of course
Yes,
that saw a spike, right?
of course it did. Yeah.
But then it meant I was free to travel, so I started moving a lot more freely
Mhm.
in my caravan. Um,
Sorry, RV
so
trailer if you like. It's okay.
the mundo. So I went straight through Guangxi and
Hmm.
entered Yunnan, where I spent 3 months all over Yunnan. That was the
Hmm.
beginning of my year.
Okay.
Now, Yunnan is a very important place, and we're going to talk about that with one of the pictures that you have, because it literally COVID decimated the economy in Yunnan. It's
Mm.
really, really sad to see. When we visited a border city called Rayleigh, um, they actually at the time they had to build a fence to keep people from escaping not only the conflict but
Mm.
also COVID. People were
Yeah.
running the border
From,
into
from
Yunnan.
Myanmar, you're talking about.
Yeah, did I say
Yeah.
Myanmar? Okay, Myanmar.
Yeah, you talk about Yunnan, but yeah,
Yeah,
Burma,
the border
Myanmar. Yeah.
with
Mm.
Myanmar.
Mm.
And there were two reasons for that. And they were hiring just regular people to help patrol the border, not just the army, because these borders are huge and they're jungle and they're mountainous.
Mm.
So they were hiring the locals. They're like, look, help us keep an eye on the people that are trying to come
Mm.
here, escaping the turbulence, but also COVID. So Yunnan
Yeah.
one of those places that struggle a lot with COVID, the same as Xinjiang, and we'll probably talk about Xinjiang later on.
Yeah.
Those borders are very difficult to secure, and COVID then comes from outside through these borders. Um,
Mm.
so we kept as safe as we could, and that's how we dealt with
Yeah.
um, the COVID spike. Also, one of the reasons why the RV industry really expanded so rapidly during COVID is because that became the preferred way of travel for people. You don't want to be on a
Yeah.
train, you don't want to be on a plane, you don't want to be at a hotel. You travel by yourself at your own pace. So, yeah, a lot of people decided to start traveling this way, and Yunnan is a very, very popular destination for this. You
Yeah.
can keep your distance from people when you're traveling like this.
Yeah. One of the
Um,
interesting things about you being in Yunnan is I was there at the same time. We I remember you sent me a message one day saying, "Hey, is this where you had lunch?" And we'd been in the same town on the same day but missed each other.
yeah,
Small world, small world.
yeah.
Yeah,
I was
that
keeping
was.
track of where you were in Dali,
Mhm.
and then you went to the north, and yeah, we were just missing each other by a couple of hours.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It happens that way. That China's so big, and there we are, both in the same town on the same day. But I left at 1 o'clock because we had a 3 p.m. train to catch, and you arrived at dinner time, I think.
Yeah, it
So
was like
yeah,
six.
we had lunch and you had dinner in the same restaurant. Um, and the guy probably said to you, your mate was just here.
Yeah, you know the
Um,
point.
Yeah, there's another thing. I was going to do this a little later, but since we're talking about that Yunnan, Myanmar, or Burma border, let's put this picture up, and you know a little bit about this story as well, don't you?
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is a lot of the issues that are causing issues in China are these internet scams. There's
Hmm.
scammers, and a lot of the rings are operated across the border.
Yeah.
So they've been by country, by national operations to tackle this problem and to tackle this issue. And this photo right here, I don't know exactly what it is, but it is from one of these particular operations where they
Yeah.
dismantle some of these gangs that stifle people online or using the phone and
Yeah.
things like that.
Well, the picture is from one particular raid where 400 people were arrested, and mostly Chinese, and they were brought back to China with the permission of the government, Myanmar's government. The Chinese citizens were all brought back to China. The locals were returned, and they came back. Now, what's interesting about this is until that day, the only crime that was on the increase inside of China, because murders are down, rapes are down, crime is down in general, assaults are down, thefts are down, robberies, burglaries, they're all reducing in number. But there was one crime that was increasing, and that was internet and phone scams. And the Chinese government was struggling so much with policing this particular degree of crime. And one of the reasons was most of the crime was taking place in one of three different places. Myanmar is the big one, Taiwan is another, and Hong Kong was another. No longer is, because national security law has helped them to develop that. So it's really helped crack down on a crime situation. There were apparently 4 families involved in this. 400 people have been arrested. They're all going to be charged. One of the leaders committed suicide. And there's one of the great things, in my opinion, is that some of these people had rescinded their Chinese nationality and taken Burmese or Myanmar nationality. They've been sent back to Myanmar and are now languishing in one of their prisons, which is not very nice by all accounts. And I'm not sure that a Chinese prison is very nice either. But if you're going to go to prison, then China is probably the place you want to be, rather than in a war zone, which effectively northern Myanmar is. It's pretty much a destabilized zone, again, because of the Americans. So for me, this happened back in January, and it's been going on all this year. There's been other raids as well, subsequent raids. And I think it's probably, it's about time that China did get on top of this. And thank goodness they have the support of the local government to do it.
Yeah. When you are able to coordinate this kind of operations and efforts with your neighboring country, it gives legitimacy to what you're doing. It's harder to twist your actions, so it's important it's from both sides, something that's coordinated by both sides. And China being China, it's always going to be an attempt, right, to frame what China is doing as something wrong or illegal. So
well, it's about as illegal as the DEA operating in Canada or Mexico.
Exactly.
There's
or
no
as
difference.
Colombia going into Ecuador to get some of the Revolutionary Army that was crossing the border.
Oh, that happened, did it?
It happened quite a lot. I mean, so
Okay.
you basically communicate with the armed forces of the other countries, and like we see them, got them
Yeah,
on GPS, permission
yeah,
to
we know
go
where
in
they are and what they're doing.
to finish them up.
Well, and it's a little different from what the USA did to Pakistan when they allegedly took out Osama bin Laden. That was actually an invasion of a sovereign country.
Yep.
Anyway, let's move on from that. That was January. That was the big story in January. February, big story. The balloon. Can you make more balloons for me?
This still okay. Let me see if how was the balloons?
It was. I think you did that.
Yeah.
No, it was that.
5
No.
balloons.
There's the balloons. Right. Great. We have a background now for the balloon story. What do you make of it?
Look, it's one of those things. They just grab whatever they can and start to make nonsensical claims about them.
Right.
And it just goes on non-stop. Let me explain. This happened in February. There's still Epoch Times and on China Uncensored and many media groups talking about this as a spy balloon and what were they trying to hide? They take something as innocent as a weather balloon, which is what China told. Hey, we have a weather balloon that has just gone out of course. Just to let you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Feel
then
free to
what they're
shoot it
saying,
down, they probably said.
like, oh, they're trying to um, keep it on the wraps. The government is not talking about it, but now a civilian has spotted it. So,
Mm.
why is the government hiding it? Because it was nothing. There was
What's a
really
nothing
nothing to
burger?
talk about. But a nothing bugger, yeah. But once somebody catches the government not talking about something, they can weaponize it, and that's what took place. But the
Mm.
best part about this is when when there's I don't know which news channel it is, if it's CNN or CBS or whatever, but they talk to the general, Miley, I think, in the
Miley,
US,
Millie, yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah, there was no spying. It was not, obviously it had sensors.
yeah.
It had
Because it's a weather
sensors.
balloon. That's
It's a
what
weather
weather
balloon,
balloons do.
but
It's
it was not a spying balloon. There was no spying
mm,
taking place. In fact, some of the way that it relayed information back to China was using US infrastructure,
mm.
US telecommunication infrastructure. This is, I mean, think
Yeah,
about that for a
the
second.
US were very proud of their ability to stop it sending back information. They made a good point of that. We
Mm.
prevented it from sending information back to the communists, which I thought was brilliant. You know, they prevented it by doing what? By stopping it accessing American systems, which it was doing while it was acting as a weather balloon. But even China said it's not doing anything. And that comment I just put up from Seymour Fact is absolutely right. The spy balloon was not spying. Oh, why are you calling it a spy balloon? And it
Yeah.
seemed to never end. And it prevented Blinken coming over here at one stage, which I think was kind of part and parcel of what he was trying to do. He was trying to delay things anyway, because the more America can delay any attempts to help the relationship develop, the better it is for America. So he delayed
It's all
his
about
trip.
how divided America is.
Mm,
If you are seen as coming a little bit closer to China, they'll demonize you.
mhm.
So they use something to kind of like, okay, let's buy a little bit of time and
Yep.
maybe attack a
Yeah.
little.
Yeah.
I think the Chinese
Yeah.
understand the position. They understand the trouble that Americas are in because of that division. So, okay, it's a weather balloon. What do you want me to say?
Well, the division it serves a useful purpose. Actually, it prevents cohesion. All these divisions that they have inside of America, the Republicans, the Democrats, the pro-choice, pro-life, the pro-gender, anti-gender pronouns, all of these different divisions, they create division, and the reason they create division is so there's no cohesion. Whilst you have no cohesion, you can't possibly have revolution. And that's a very, very useful tool. They want one thing that kind of keeps everybody together, that the whole country can agree upon, and that is we don't like China. And the depth of how much we don't like China varies, but we don't like China. Go
and
on.
and there's one thing: the more
Mm.
things are so absolute, either black or white,
Yeah.
the more opportunities you have to really fracture society. So maybe you and I agree on this gender issue, right?
Mm.
But then you're pro-life and I'm not pro-life, or you
Yeah.
are pro-immigration and I'm not. So there's so many factors in our relationship that could be, that are binary, that are yes
Yes.
or no, black and white.
Yeah. Mm.
There will always be something that separates us. Yes, you're for this, yes, you're for that, but you're also,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
you're
no.
not going to be, yeah, you're not going to be my true friend. And honestly, Fernando, if you ever need an abortion, I'll support you all the way.
I'll get a liposuction because the closest I'll get to that.
Oh yeah, me too, me too, probably. All right, let's move on from the balloon incident in February. March, China had the two sessions, and this
Ooh.
is we're going to touch on a little touch of politics. The two sessions, Li Keqiang in his final speech, and he did a very good job with that one. he said that the year's growth would be set around, and he didn't say exactly, he said around 5%. So if they'd come in at 4.8%, 4.9%, the rest of the world would have said they failed. If they came in at 5.1%, 5.2%, the rest of the world said, oh yeah, they made it. They got around 5%. So this is a good way of doing it. They look like, and the figures for Q4 won't come in for a few more days, a couple of weeks, in fact, but the figures look like China has achieved 5.2 or maybe even higher than that. How do you think they did that with all these pressures on them?
I think the whole ending of COVID measures had a lot to do with that, because the level of tourism, in domestic tourism, that I experienced was like nothing I'd seen in the years prior. Everybody was out. Everybody's like, oh, let's shake this off, and everybody's going everywhere. Everybody was shopping. Everybody was dining. Everybody was, so this local consumption has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Other factors like EVs just winning this competition
I
around the
saw it.
world,
Yeah.
and it's just becoming, it's becoming a no-brainer for a lot of people. Are you going to buy an imported legacy car that is going to cost you a lot more, and it doesn't have all the features that you can get in a Chinese made new energy vehicle? Or are you going to support your own country? And like it's crazy how many new energy brands there are in
I
China. I
noticed
mean,
that. Yeah, yeah.
brands that are popping up all the time,
Mm,
and they're all alliances between smaller companies and bigger companies. They have sub brands. Now they've announced, now for example, my brand is going to create another sub brand because they want to tackle all the different markets. This is a huge thing for China, and BYD is now the largest car producer or manufacturer in the world. These are things that affect GDP to a great deal.
yeah.
Do you have any other factors that
Yeah. Xiaomi, my watch manufacturer, have just released a car that looks Tesla-esque, I would say. That's the best way to describe it. But my goodness.
Porche,
Hmm?
Porsche-esque?
Porsche-esque.
The
Well,
crown
apparently
of
the
a Porsche.
designer of it came from BMW. So yeah, you can see why it's got these lines. It's a very beautiful car. But this is a company that 10 years ago, maybe less, it came on the market with a cheap smartphone, a very cheap smartphone. When other smartphones cost 2, 3, 4,000 RMB, this one was 800. This is how they
Mm.
got on the market. And here they are, not a decade later, producing one of the nicest, sleekest looking cars that I've seen, and that's in a market of nice, sleek looking cars. It's amazing. So yeah, you're right. The cars are probably the thing. China's no longer making socks, t-shirts, jeans, not in any great capacity anyway. All of that
Mm.
has been shipped overseas. Shoes in Cambodia. Cotton products are going to Bangladesh and Vietnam and some Indonesia as well. The kind of low level stuff, and I think that's probably the high tech, the AI, the robotics, all of those things that are keeping China going. It's been an amazing year in terms of so many challenges from the United States in particular, but so many challenges. And we're going to talk about one of them was in July was the youth unemployment rate. We'll come back to that in a little while. But so many challenges, and they seem to have overcome or are in the process of overcoming every single one of them. The real
The
estate,
foundations are strong.
go on.
The foundations are very strong in China.
Mm,
So they might chip a corner here, chip a corner there, but that will get fixed in time. The foundation, the pillars are so solid in Chinese economy
mm.
that you might slow it down a little bit, but they still get their objectives
Yeah.
as gold.
And they changed the rules. Let's go into the housing market, because the I can't remember his name now. The guy, Xu Jiayin. Xu Jiayin was the guy who was the head of Evergrande, the chairman of China's Evergrande. Now, everyone in the world knows the name Evergrande because it caused the collapse of the Chinese economy. Not. Do you remember? I mean, people seem to forget that Evergrande kind of came to the well, yeah, that was Peter Zien, wasn't it? We did do it. Yeah, but the Evergrande thing started its collapse more than 3 years ago, January 3 years ago, and we could see it was reported that this was going to happen, and finally it did happen, and then in September this year, Xu Jiayin was arrested. And he became the richest person ever to be arrested in China. He was, I don't know if he still is. Well, sure he's not now, but yeah, I doubt it now. But he was China's richest person for a period of time. He was the head of Evergrande, and Evergrande was the one that caused the big collapse. But then there was another one, even bigger, and a lot of people don't know this one. Is that's the Zhongji, which is a major financial conglomerate. That collapsed, or reported its collapse, through financial troubles, of course, and that was worth 3.7 trillion RMB. 3.7 trillion RMB. That's three quarters of a trillion dollars. It's 700 and something trillion dollars. Sorry, billion dollars, not trillion, billion dollars. That was eventually went into receivership in November. Now, that happened in November. The Evergrande thing happened 3 years ago, and China still hasn't collapsed. What's going wrong? How is Peter Zien getting it so right, and the China's getting it so wrong?
It still has like 8 years. Like Gordon Chang has extended his again and again, right?
Gordon Chang's out of warranty period. We don't believe him anymore.
But the main thing about this is capitalism in China exists, but capitalism in China exists in a way that is very different from the West, America in particular, as
opposed to unbridled capitalism.
Exactly. They tell companies they cannot do things that hurt people. And that's basically it. They don't allow them to hurt the people, and they don't bail them out. It's like, you've got assets, go out and sell them. You sort it out. We might help you out here and there, but you sort out the problems that you cause. And in the real estate market, it was mainly just speculation. I have very, very, and you do as well, personal experiences with what's taking place in terms of real estate. Prices are dropping like crazy.
Yeah.
We got, and what is that doing? What is the drop in prices doing?
It's helping people like you and I.
We're buying apartments because they became so affordable, so cheap. You can actually get a place for very little money. And
do you want to share how much you paid for yours? Because I'm happy to share how much I'm paying for mine.
Look, I don't need this as an investment, and I don't need this to live, but I need it because I'm starting the process of applying for my 5-star card.
And you need residence, yeah.
And this is one of the things that helps me qualify for that, the permanent residency, owning property. My property cost me 280,000 RMB. That's in US dollars is what, divided by 6?
Yeah, that's about $40,000.
No.
Yeah. $30,000, $40,000 in US terms. Mine is 350,000, but it's a very old apartment, and we're gutting it, and having it renovated. And the renovations are going to take it up to almost 500,000 RMB,
We can
which
live there
is
if we want.
80,000. Sorry?
I can live in my apartment if I want, but I have no
Yeah.
plans on living in it. But
Mm.
it's finished, it's furnished, is moving. That's it. We are getting the deed in 7 days. But what I would like to share with the people watching is my experience I've been in the city for 2 days, and I've been shopping, right? Because you shop on apps, and then you go see what you want to see. I saw 3 apartments sold in one day,
Yeah.
basically in one day. And those are all first time owners. I
Mm.
went to a place and there was a line of people waiting to see apartments that were being released.
Wow.
First home ownership is skyrocketing in China because finally you can get your own place.
Mm-hmm.
I love talking about regular people. Let's say what is the salary of a manager of McDonald's, for example? Is between
Probably eight. I was going to
8,000
say
RMB.
about 8,000 tops. Yeah, maybe 7,000, but yeah, a manager level. Yeah. Mm.
Let's say you got a couple. So
Yeah.
now the income is 15,000 RMB a month combined.
Mm.
Well, these people, if they buy an apartment, if they're very young, right, 23, 24, and they buy an apartment like the one I bought, they get a loan for 300,000 RMB. The
Mm-hmm.
maximum mortgage in China is 15 years, not 30 like in America, and the interest rates are really, really low. And because they're first time
6%.
owners, they lend them a lot of money.
Mm.
They will be paying, let's do the math. How much is that in 15 years? That's 100,000 RMB
Mm.
every 5 years. That's 60 months. Look, they're paying like 2,500 RMB a month to
Which is what
own.
they're paying in rent to own an apartment. Yeah, I mean, many of them buy for cash too. This is another thing that many people in the West don't understand about China, this
Mm,
savings philosophy. During the COVID year, and it basically the last year of COVID, when there were more restrictions, there were more lockdowns in the last year. This is a fact. People in China saved about the same amount as the GDP of the United Kingdom. The savings in China was equal to the GDP of the United Kingdom. I repeat that because no one can believe that. The United Kingdom's entire GDP was put into the bank during the last year of COVID, 1 year of COVID. And yeah, we're talking trillions of RMB, many trillions of RMBs, 3 trillion US dollars. Yeah, that's right, 3 trillion US dollars went into Chinese banks in 1 year. And those people are now, everybody expected this revenge buying and revenge purchasing, and that would really impact on the GDP. That's not what's impacting on the GDP. One of the major things is people say, okay, now I've got this money, I'm getting interest on it, but how about if I just go and buy that 300,000 RMB apartment for
mm.
cash? That's what
Here's the
people are
other
doing.
thing.
Or they're putting 200,000 down and borrowing 100,000 and paying it off in a year.
I basically experienced this. I mean, of the 3 apartments that I saw sold, 2 were Hong Kongese people.
Yeah,
So people who
yeah.
don't live in the city, people who buy it as an investment. So let us get back to what Xi Jinping said a few years back. Houses are for living, not for
Not for
speculation. The
speculation. Yeah.
story that we heard from these people, the real estate experts that showed us around, is that, well, some of the people bought this apartment that I'm buying at 280. They bought them at 6 or 700,000.
Right.
So they're losing so much money. Somebody is losing. We're not going to deny that. Somebody's losing money, but the first home owners are jumping in. And what is happening is that speculators, people who had many, many homes for investment, are losing equity. They're not losing
Yeah.
their home. They're
No.
not wondering, what am I going to have for breakfast tomorrow? They're losing equity. But equity does come back, not to them, but the first home owners that are
Yeah.
jumping in
This is
right
true.
now.
Yeah. And
So
if they borrowed, and I have a friend who does this, he's been doing it for years. He's a very, very wealthy man. And if he borrows to buy 100 apartments, he's the one who's got the problem now. Borrowing to buy apartments creates the problem. Now it's Fernando's turn to be lost. So let's hope that comes back in a second. There you
I
are.
lost my
Welcome back to the show. Yeah, so this friend of mine borrowed quite heavily. Now, fortunately for him, he was a very, very wealthy man anyway, and he's been doing this for many years. So he borrows money, buys 100 apartments, and then over a period of time, as these apartments increase by 5, 6, or 10% in the first year, his interest on that is 1% or 2%. So he's making a fortune every time he sells one. He pays off part of his debt. So he's doing very, very well by doing this. He's the one who, when this all started to collapse, suddenly went, "Oh my God, I'm in trouble here." But he's already a very wealthy man, so he's not in serious trouble. But he has now lost a hell of a lot of equity, but not a hell of a lot of money. Now he has to
yeah.
service a debt. Yeah, he has to service the debt. So it's all
It's
starting to change here.
when you think about, for example, some of the foreigners that came here back in the day, right? Or some of the Chinese or Taiwanese, or they came here and they traded.
Mm.
Imagine if you make, I don't know, cups, right? And you get an order for 1,000,000 cups, and you can add 10 cents to of a dollar to a cup, right? Or to
Yeah.
a package. The volume of orders is what actually made people rich. I
Yes. Yeah.
know
Yeah.
I have personal friends who had, oh, I just closed a deal. Yeah, yeah, $100,000. $100,000 in 2010, 2011, 2012 could literally buy you 2 homes.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Could easily-
I, I,
right?
I was looking at a deal which didn't come off in 2007, and my share had the deal come off, and it was basically tin cans. The company I was dealing with was doing tin cans, and had the deal come off, my personal share would have been $75,000 US. That's how big this deal was. We're talking in the multi-million uh, uh, components here, and my share at 1.5% of the deal was $75,000. 1.5% of the profit. Sorry, not the deal, the profit. Unfortunately, it never came off, so it's just one of those things that
But
I'll
yeah,
put down to experience.
it's
Hmm.
life and common parcel for a lot of people here. Factory owners, traders, people were
Yeah,
making money left and right, and they were buying. It was not unusual to have somebody say, look, I've got 15 apartments, I got 20 apartments
yeah, yeah,
in the city, in other places, in other places. And because the price was so low here, if you lived in Hong Kong, you could buy
yeah.
10 apartments for the price of one
For the
apartment
price
in
of
Hong
one.
Kong.
Yeah, yeah.
And just
Now,
wait for the level to go up.
let's just correct this so there's no misunderstanding. When we're talking about the house prices there, 300,000, 350,000, that's RMB, not dollars. When I was
Yes.
talking about that $74,000, that was US dollars, which would have been my share. So just to make sure that we're talking in the same language here.
Yeah.
Real estate collapsed because of excessive speculation. This was in the West in 2007, and certainly that's what's caused the problem here: excessive borrowing, expecting the capital gain, and when the capital gain stopped, then the excessive borrowing. Now, the fortunate thing about China is interest rates didn't go up. In Australia, interest rates went up, I think, 13 or 11 times in a row, and 13 times in the last couple of years. They've gone up. Now, if you've speculated and borrowed against property that is reducing in price and your interest rates are going up, you're in serious trouble. Fortunately, in China, the interest rates haven't gone up. The property prices have come down, and that is to the benefit of the normal, ordinary people and to the detriment of the rich people, the speculators.
That's the conversation that I had with the owner. I said, like, look, they were telling me that he was trying to sell this apartment that he bought like for 600 or 700. He was trying to sell it in summer for 350. Now it's 280.
Mm.
I said to him, like, who tells you this is going to go back up? Who tells you that this is not going to continue to go down? I can make that pain stop right now.
Yeah.
So follow to me for what I am telling you, and
Yeah.
then we're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair
You don't
enough.
have that anymore.
You sound like a drug dealer there. I'll take the pain away. Let's move off property speculation. We're both. Oh, one other thing I wanted to ask you about your property. So before we move on, you said you're going to get the deeds in a couple of days. You signed
Yeah,
the deal yesterday,
yeah.
and when will you be able? When would you be legally able to move in? When will that
Well,
happen?
basically, once the contract is signed, I could theoretically move in. But for me, I'm not moving in. I'm continuing my trip,
No,
right?
but
I'm
I'm
not
talking.
moving.
I'm talking about if you were a person looking to buy a home to live in, this is something that Westerners don't get. We did the same thing. We signed a deal on the 19th of October, and on the 19th of November, it was ours to move into. Now, we didn't
Mm.
move into it. We're gutting it and renovating it, but we signed that deal, and we were able to move in 30 days later. You're
No,
even
this one,
faster.
as long as you pay the transfer, because it's second home,
Mm,
second hand home. So we need to pay some transfers and some
yeah.
rights here and some rights there.
Mm,
Because it's the holiday, it might take a couple of days, but that is, the guy say it takes 7 days maximum. So I could
right.
literally live in that place 7 days from the moment I sign the contract and give the earnest money. Um,
Mm,
for me, what matters is the deed, and they'll give me the deed after 7 days. And with that,
yeah.
I can go to the Foreign Affairs Bureau and say, like, hey, now I have a home, now I
Mm,
have everything here. Let's start the process of my 5-star card. Um,
right.
and that's the reason why I'm doing this. Um, but yeah, it's incredibly fast, and this is one of the things that China also did. They started to
Mm,
deregulate a lot of these processes to make them faster, so that
yep.
more people could jump in and buy homes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
People worry about the real estate market in China. It's just shifting a little bit, and always ask yourself, when do you buy? You buy low,
Mm,
so when prices go down, wah, people are
yeah.
jumping in to buy.
Yeah, we've got one to sell, but we're not in any hurry to sell it. So, yeah, we'll keep it empty. It's going to be there for a while, and until such time as we see
You,
this go up, because we don't have that pain, and
you were
we're
not
not
in
worried.
enough pain. I was making you an offer,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Well, make me an offer in a couple of years' time. Yeah, then I'll be
I'll
in
put
pain.
a horse head on your bed.
All right, let's move on. I want to show another picture, and then we'll talk about this, because this is something that the
Mm.
West had a big thing about, and that's this lady here. Um, I'm not sure of her name, and I think that's been kept out of the press, but I found out a little bit of information about this story. Do you know the story?
Yeah, the chain woman.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I I I don't dwell into negative stories. I try
right.
to keep my train garbage free. But yes, I know a little bit about the story. Don't know her name. Don't know the region, but I know that it did take place. The only thing I can say, I hope you can give
Mm,
us more detail if you have,
I will.
is that uh, there are sick people anywhere in the world
Yes.
that exists. It's what is done to prevent them acting out that's important. But it's not unique to China. This is not a China
No, of
story.
course it's not. Yeah.
It's a human
and
depravity.
and that's the reason why I wanted to bring this up, because it's not a China story. This hit the media in China, and about, I think it was about 2-3 years ago, there was a similar story hit the media in China, and the West took this up as to say, look how bad China is. It's terrible.
Mm.
This was a story of a lady who had some mental illness. She was married, and her husband locked her up in a cage with a chain. And believe it or not, she had 8 children during this period of many, many years of being locked up. She had 8 children. She gave birth to 8 children. Now, This is horrific. It's a horror story. Now, don't tell me this doesn't happen in other countries. It happens everywhere. Hollywood makes a genre out of the whole thing. I mean, it definitely happens. But what happened here, and the same thing with the other horrific story from a couple of years before, where two girls were quite badly beaten up in a kind of outdoor barbecue area. They were badly beaten up by a gang of people, and I think that was in Tianjin. Or somewhere in the Northeast. Now, what happened there was it hit social media, and it went like wildfire on Chinese social media. Why does it go like wildfire on Chinese social media? It does that because people in China are horrified by this. People in China are disgusted by it. Yeah, they're outraged. And so they're really, really pushing this out. These people need to be stopped. That's what Chinese people are doing. And in the West, they're highlighting it as, look how bad China is. And that's something that I think needs to be highlighted. This is not how bad China is. This is how bad a particular guy is. But here's what happened. In the other issue where two girls were badly assaulted, 13 people went to prison, some of them for extended periods, like 20 years. And it was a gang thing. And the police chief was relieved of his post because he'd allowed this situation to develop in a city. The whole system is now much better in that city. Same thing has happened here. Believe it or not, the husband went to prison for 9 years. He's not the longest. There were 5 other co-conspirators or co-accused with him, and the longest sentence is 13 years. Now, this in itself has caused a little bit of upset in China, not so much outrage as the actual incident happening, but the fact that he only got 9 years for doing this. Now, Chinese people, you can see the sort of people that Chinese are. And if you start reading the Guardian or the Daily Telegraph or the Wall Street Journal, they're saying, this is what Chinese people do. They lock people up. They lock their wives up. No, they don't. This is an aberration. And you're still there, but you've muted your camera. You've gone for a coffee or something. So yeah, this is an aberration that happened just because something very bad happened. It will happen again. And I'm sure the international media will do the same thing again. They will highlight this as being China when it's not. It's an ill person doing something to an even sicker person, unfortunately. So can I still hear you there, Fernando? Yeah, yes. There you are. Welcome back to the show. Yeah. Was that a camera collapse, a battery collapse or something?
Battery issue.
Yeah. Okay, I thought it might have been.
Not too long. I was charging it for a bit, so I think I have another half hour.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll be finished within half an hour. What about the youth unemployment rate? That's the next thing I wanted to talk about.
That's the thing. I mean, when China produces information, if it's good, don't believe it. If it's bad information, you see, like, why would China post something negative if they know that they're going to jump at it? Because China produces data. That's it. They produce data regardless whether it's good or bad. They don't. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but yeah. They actually made a decision to stop producing that data. It's no longer part of China's releases. Why do you think they did that?
Well, you've got to wonder, what is the point of, remember when Trump decided to stop having press releases?
Yeah, that's true. During COVID, he just said, I'm not going to do it anymore. Yeah.
When they decided to start giving like COVID updates in America, let's forget it. Like, sometimes what China does is like, what's the point? I mean, people were asking about, and this is another point that we're going to talk about, but what's the point of Xi Jinping going to America? There's just, people were having that debate here in China. What was this? Why are we being so magnanimous of doing things to please the international community when they misuse it, they abuse it, they twist it, do you know what I'm saying? So this is one of the reasons. I mean, they just like, you know what, we deal with the problem, let's not give them wood to add to the fire.
Yeah. To me, it seems strange that America does the exact same thing. It's completely transparent. And you can go online into any different government department and find all the negativity you want. I do this quite often. People say to me, "Oh, you tell lies about America." I said, "Well, it's not me. Go to the CDC, go to the Department of Education, go to the FBI website. That's where I get my information. If you think I'm lying, my source is the FBI. What's
I
wrong
love
with that?"
with the situation with the shoal and the Philippines, right? All the Filipinos like, no, this is our land. Like, go check the CIA. It's disputed territory. And I posted the picture of the CIA describing it. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Moan about
Well,
it to the CIA or keep asking them for money and help? Make up your
yeah,
mind, Philippe.
that's all that is. Yeah, but the unemployment rate was one of the problems that it did cause significant concern in Western media. Now, that's a really interesting thing because Western media really don't like China, but suddenly they love the youth of China. They love the people of China, and they think the Chinese people deserve better. But they've never asked the Chinese people what they want. So this is a really interesting point to me. The 21.3% that was recorded back in July was a really interesting time to record that, because what happens in June? Every kid graduates high school, vocational college, training school, camps, universities. It's the graduation season, and every single country in the world will have a spike in their youth unemployment at that time of year. Now, what happened this year was, last year it was 20%. This year it was 21%. And next year, I hope it will be 19%. That's how it's going to be. That spike will always be there in July. And that's why China stopped recording it, because by September, it's down to 15%. The end of the summer holidays, October, November, it's right down. And then it might go up again around January, February, when Chinese New Year starts and people start laying people off, or people quit. And this is another thing about China. A lot of people quit the day after they get their annual bonus, because most people in China get a 1 month extra salary in the day before the Chinese New Year holiday. So almost everybody gets that. I've received that as well. So in some places I've worked, I received a Hong Bao with 200 RMB in it, and other places you receive a month's salary. I prefer the latter, of course. But this is very common. So people then say, okay, I've taken my month's salary, I've taken my month's bonus, and I'm going back to my hometown to start a business there. I'll see you never. Bye-bye. And so unemployment does spike up again at Chinese New Year. But that's the only thing that caused this. It was not really a significant problem. The overall rate of unemployment, you know what it is? I think you do. In China?
No, it's around 5, I think.
Yes, it's exactly. It's 5%. Yeah. So the overall unemployment rate in China is the same as the overall unemployment rate in most developed countries. And that 21.3% is included in that 5%. So that means overall more people are employed in China. Oh, so Rich, yeah, this is an interesting one. This is a guy called Steve Ho, who is often in touch with me. Steve, hi. Richard Wolf says a hybrid system of governance. Yeah, I've often been asked, is China capitalist or communist? I say it's neither. It's Chinese. That's the answer.
When he says hybrid system of governance, it's basically a combination of what works. What works in China, what works in the West, and they localize it. We've talked about all these pilot programs that China does.
Yeah, well, they're good at that. Yeah.
What works, and go with that. So it's a system that allows them that flexibility. We don't have that in many other countries.
No, right. That's true. Yeah. I wanted to very briefly touch on whatever happened to former Ambassador Qin Gang. And I think it's probably the same as what happened to Peng Shuai, whose name I spelt wrong yesterday. What happened to Qin Gang?
basically he didn't meet the expectations, I suppose.
Mm,
Is um he wasn't meeting the necessary requirements for the central government. They decided you need to step down. I
mm.
mean, it's what happens in a meritocracy.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that's true. What you said, that makes sense. It absolutely makes sense, but I'm not sure what's true because he disappeared from his position and there was speculation that he might be sick. There was speculation that he'd had an affair. There was speculation that he was a spy. There was speculation that he didn't meet this, that, or the other, whatever criteria. The fact is, it's no one's business at all except Chingang, maybe his employers, and his family.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what happened to him, and it's just media ghouls looking for a story that say this person has removed himself from the public eye or been removed from the public eye, and I'm not sure which. Now, we might hear in the future what actually happened to him, but the bottom line is whose business is it? And why do you make such a fuss of it? It's nothing to do with Western media. It's nothing to do with these so-called experts. It's really nothing to do with anyone except Chingang, his family, maybe some of his
Oh,
friends, and his employer or employers. That's it. It's mind your own business is
it's
all
very
I say
interesting
about that.
because in Western countries you have all these scandals left
Mm.
and right that are really um, they like to turn them into news. Like this
Yeah.
George Santos that was removed from Congress in America. The guy lied left and right about his qualifications. The guy misappropriated funds, and then of course he
Mm.
had to be removed from Congress. But it's all a scandal and it's all breaking news. It's all
Mm.
people come
And
and
the,
go
and the
for
bottom line
so
is, who really cares?
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh, the new
yeah.
chief commander of China is from the Navy. That means something about Taiwan.
He's actually a submariner. So that must be something. That there must be something in.
Neat.
Let's lighten the mood a little bit with another thing that happened in September. Do you
Mhm.
know that the most successful advertising campaign in the year? Do you know what it was? And it wasn't
Yes, indeed.
Huawei
Yes,
with
indeed.
Gina Raimondo.
Oh, but that was up there. No,
That was great, but it wasn't that one.
no, it was similar
Yeah,
colors, not this
yeah,
one.
similar
Similar.
color, but not the same product. It was Mao Tai coffee. Now, if people in China would look at them and go, Mao Tai coffee, people who know China, Mao Tai
Yeah,
in coffee? I mean, what's a French coffee? A French coffee is coffee with
it's an
brandy.
Irish coffee.
An Irish coffee is whiskey and cream. Yeah. So we got
Mhm.
all these different types of coffee. Luckin Coffee produced a brand, a model. I don't know if
Product.
that's a product, which was Mautai laced coffee. It was 0.2% alcoholic.
Uh-huh.
So you had to be over 18 to buy it. I don't think they cared. But this, the it earned Luckin Coffee 100 million RMB on the day of its release. One day's earnings increase in earnings from the previous day, 100 million RMB. That's 15, 16 million US dollars. And it will go down in history as being the most successful, but they discontinued it. I don't think you can still buy it.
That's the power. No, well, not lately, but as of last month, I could still see it around.
Yeah,
It's the power of media and how it influences purchases. When people start talking and sharing it in
yeah,
social media here in China, it just things just they spiral in
yeah,
ways and a speed and reach that is very difficult to explain to people in the West. Other
yeah,
than I don't know, um, red tape, so things like that. That everybody starts sharing. Other than that,
yeah.
I can't compare it to anything. Like when that Raimondo photo Oh man, that was so
Oh,
funny.
that was good.
Like
That was.
the day she
And
comes to China, they
but that
released the
wasn't
phone.
Huawei.
No, no, no. That banner wasn't Huawei, but they released
No.
the phone with a chip that they've been
C-band.
trying not to get them to achieve. That
Mm.
was such a goal. That was a midfield goal, man.
Yeah, it was. It was a great one. Okay, so we're coming towards the end. We have to go in an hour and 30. What else have we got? Gaming industry, real estate. We've talked about the gaming industry restrictions. Do you know much about them? They're very recent. That's
Well,
just the last week or so.
yes, but they've been some of those, as in usage of social media and games as well. So
Mm.
the government here is very paternalistic. It's something that a lot of countries in the West
Protective.
wish. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
they would do. Like kids can only play a certain number of hours a
Yeah.
day, only watch a certain number of hours social media, and that's something that the government sets as a parameter so that it doesn't affect with the development
Mm.
of the kids. Think of the
Mm.
nap time, think of the everyday morning exercise, think of all these little things that are there to make sure that the kids are developing in a proper and healthy way. This is
Yeah.
more of that, but this has to do with spending. A lot of these
Mm.
games, you are free to play in basic mode, but then, oh, you want that skin, oh, you want that weapon,
Yeah.
oh, you want
This. Yeah. This micro economy that they have in there is spending one RMB here and two RMB there. Yeah.
in-app purchases. And
Mm.
the kids are constantly either finding ways to buy them
Mm.
without the parents' permission or nagging on the parents. Meh, meh, meh." So they're going to say, like,
Yeah.
there's a
Can't
limit.
government? Yeah, government says no. Can't. It's against the
Exactly.
law. Yeah, I
So
think that's
now
good.
these companies are not able to profit from the addiction that they create.
Mm.
They're gonna find other
Yeah.
ways to profit and to find. And again, is that idea about China always thinking about you as a company, you as an organization cannot do things
Social.
that are going to
Yeah,
hurt people.
socially responsible. Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Exactly.
Okay, one
That's
last
enough.
one last comment before we go, because we're hitting
Yep.
the 1 hour and 26 minutes, and some people in the UK are getting very tired. I don't blame them. The unilateral visa fee policy that was introduced in November. What do you think?
Um, that is great. Together with the inviting of 50,000 students to from America to come to China,
Did you see
nothing
what they
worse.
did 2 days ago? Sorry to interrupt you. Did you see what they did 2 days ago?
No,
They've
what?
relaxed the American conditions. So if you want to come to China, you don't need a reservation, you don't need an itinerary, you don't need an invitation letter. You can just go in and say, I want to go visit China. This is only
But
America.
nothing destroys the narrative faster and more effectively than people to people exchanges. And people are
Yes.
like, oh, you're just talking CCP points. No, you come here and you're like, oh, God damn it. These people have all these things. Oh, look at the and you go back with so many O's that you're like, you
Yeah.
look like the Olympic symbol. All over the place.
You reckon you could get the Olympic symbol coming up on the screen by going like that?
Let's see what happens. Oh no, it's
Uh-huh.
a heart again.
Well done, that man. I don't know how you do that. I can't do it. Nothing happening here.
It's
Yeah.
just I pay more than
It's
you.
yeah. You must do. All right. Well, there's a couple of other things that I had on the list, but we've run out of time. And I think, once again, it's great talking to you. It's now 11:30 our time, but some people are sitting at 3 o'clock in the morning in the UK watching us. And I would have to say thank you very much for your dedication. And everybody
Yeah.
else who's joined us. Thank you. And thanks for the
Happy New
points and
Year, guys.
questions.
May
Yeah.
2024 bring you all the love, all the health, and the prosperity that you wish for. And yeah, we'll see you next year with more content. And thank
We
you, Jerry,
will,
for inviting me.
and I think Fernando and I, you and I, are kind of going to do this more often, once or twice a month, maybe once a
We want
month
to.
at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you've got to settle
You, I,
down.
I sent you the logo
Oh,
already, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, the
Thank
logo is up there, but I don't know why it's not on the screen. But thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Thanks, Fernando. And you and Bess have a great, happy new year. And everybody
you.
else, wish you
Awesome.
all a happy new year.